Hi, welcome back to my channel. Today's video is going to be my weight loss and GLP-1 journey. This is gonna be a doozy. Ew, I don't know why I said that. Hi, it's Ari, welcome back to my channel. I'm really nervous to make this video. Honestly, haven't told a lot of people my whole weight loss, weight gain, and weight loss journey and my journey on a GLP-1. I really hope you stick around and watch this video, whether you are planning on going on a GLP-1 or if you're on one right now, or if you have problems with losing weight. And I know there's a lot of videos out there like this, but I feel like every single one that I've watched, I've kind of related to small bits and pieces of it. It's important to have these things out there, especially because GLP-1s have become more common now. I will be putting timestamps, so if you don't want to hear my whole ass backstory and how I ended up gaining so much weight and losing it and everything, then you should be able to skip around.
Flashback.
As a child, I was an athlete. I did ballet, I did martial arts, cycling. I grew up vegetarian. I ate mostly healthy. My parents did not allow candy, junk food, soda. They were pretty strict, especially when I was younger. My parents made lots of delicious home-cooked meals. They were very into nutrition, which I'm honestly very grateful for as an adult. But I will say, as a child, Mia and my brother would hide in the closet and eat our Halloween candy and kind of try and trick whoever was watching us into letting us eat Oreo type cookies for breakfast. And we would make these weird milk concoctions with like syrup and sprinkles. So I do think that maybe we're a little too restricted, because I think maybe we wouldn't have gone so crazy on all the junk like secretly if we were allowed it a little bit. But my parents did get a lot more lenient as we got older. So I always kind of had OCD and anxiety as a kid. I was diagnosed when I was an adult, but I definitely had it when I was younger. I had some eating issues. There was like a little phase where I would only eat baby food because I was scared of choking. That's only like real food issue I had as a younger kid. In high school, I definitely had some problems with restricting. Nothing extreme. I was very, very thin. I was on the swim team. I think this had to do a lot with the 2000s culture about weight. I just wanted to wear low-rise jeans and all of that stuff. And I think a lot of people my age, I'm 30 now, had that kind of a high school experience. Other than that, I didn't have any major issues with body image or weight. I did have a little bit of a skewed relationship with exercise and sports because I'm a people pleaser and I always have been. And my dad is a huge cyclist. Admittedly, I did not like cycling that much when I was younger, but my dad really loved it and I really wanted him to be proud of me, so I would do it. And yes, I still have my Christmas tree up. Isn't it cute? Anyways, I ended up doing a lot of different triathlons and racing, and I am glad actually that I did it, and I do want to get back to it in the future, but I think, like I said, I had a weird relationship with it for a little bit of time. I got up to doing a half Ironman, and it was right before I started college. The second I crossed that finish line, I was like, I'm done. I was very proud of myself, but I was so excited to go to college and kind of have some space from my own pressure on myself to do these kind of sports. I was very into more creative type of hobbies, but for some reason I boxed myself in and I told myself that I needed to do that and that I needed to become a biochemistry major in college. As soon as I got to college, I went ham. Root beer, mozzarella sticks, and Applebee's. My Applebee's order, and this was like a weekly thing, was spinach artichoke dip, sweet potato fries, boneless wings, but I would only eat the outsides because I was still a vegetarian at this point. So like the breading, and a triple chocolate meltdown. And I would eat that myself, and I didn't want to share. I had like food aggression. But I will say, experiencing what I did later with food noise, I didn't have that back then. I loved Applebee's and all that shit, but I wasn't like thinking about it constantly, and I would eat kind of like a normal-ish diet. Overall, I didn't have like tons of food noise, and I definitely gained the freshman 15, 20. Nothing crazy, at least for the first few years. Around 2018, my senior year of college, I developed a horrible case of health anxiety and agoraphobia. If you don't know what agoraphobia is, it's where you are literally terrified to leave the house. I was living in an apartment at the time on campus and I would not leave. very, very close to the little place that sold food by my apartment. That's the only place I would go. I remember just walking and just skipping my finals because I could not make it to that side of campus without having a panic attack. I'll get into that another day maybe. To keep it related to the food and the weight gain, anything that elevated my heart, I was terrified of. I was like completely sedentary, not leaving the house, and I was eating constantly. And it wasn't just emotional eating. If you know anything about OCD, you know you'll kind of have a kind of fixation on an obsession on a certain thing, and then you'll have a compulsion with it. So I always felt dizzy because I had really bad anxiety and I was in a constant state of panic. I felt dizzy from that. And so anytime I felt dizzy or faint, which was always at this time, I would eat because I convinced myself that I had low blood sugar and that I needed to elevate it by eating something. I was so terrified of passing out. So at that point, I would not go more than like an hour without eating something. I really wanted to include all of this stuff because I personally haven't seen anybody talk about this, and I just know if I had somehow found someone saying that they were feeling these things, it would have made me feel so much better. Please calm down. Please, I beg. This is Sadie. Oh, thank you. Oh my gosh, thank you. Sometimes I get... This is such an embarrassing story, but I just had to throw it in here because it's kind of funny now. I don't even know if it's funny. It's honestly so embarrassing. I was so convinced that my blood sugar was low that when I finally went to see a doctor, I was supposed to get blood work. My dad took me because at this point I couldn't even drive. I literally made him get me a cinnamon raisin bagel with cream cheese. I ate this bagel while I got my blood drawn. Spoiler alert, I did not have low blood sugar. I had high blood sugar, probably from eating 24/7 and literally eating a bagel while I was getting my blood drawn. Long story short with the health anxiety. Lots of trips to the ERs, a trip to a neurologist who told me I had an anxiety disorder. And of course I did not believe him. At some point with the mental health stuff, I hit rock bottom and I finally went to see a therapist. I finally went on medication and oh my gosh, it changed my life. Again, that's a story for another day, but this is probably around 2019. I was just so happy to live again and feel somewhat normal. At that point, I don't think weight was even not even one of my top 10 concerns, but it got much worse when the pandemic hit. My health anxiety definitely flared up and my OCD. I was an essential worker. I was working at a grocery store and I was terrified to go to work. I ended up staying home, racking up the debt, eating constantly again. And I was also just super sedentary. I was playing Animal Crossing like 10 hours a day. So obviously I had to go back to work because I ran out of credit cards. And I was still very stressed out, obviously. Like nothing changed except for that I had to go back to work. At this point is when I feel like my food noise really started. I was eating so much and I was spending so much money on takeout. I started doing a lot of secret eating. My favorite thing ever, and I would literally tell people this is my hobby at the time, which is embarrassing. Favorite thing was to get takeout and eat it in my car and watch YouTube videos. I would delay coming home. Like I would go and order my favorite Thai food and I would sit in the car and eat it, and it was my favorite part of the day every day. I also got it into my head at the time that I had a kind of ARFID type thing where I could only eat certain foods and it had to be exactly the food I was craving at that time. But that food would change a lot. And why was it always takeout?
Suspicious. That's weird.
I fully convinced myself like I would feel nauseous if I thought about eating anything else. Often be, like I said, takeout from like Chipotle or something, which again, debt, weight, it was all going up. Also started using any excuse to go out to eat. My partner and I at the time got engaged. I literally lied to him and he told me that he had a surprise for me at home. I told him that I needed to run some type of errand. I stopped at Pliables on the way back and got my order hyperfixation at the time, which was a Nutella acai bowl with double Nutella, double bananas. And I told him that because I thought that his surprise at home was a DiGiorno pizza and I didn't want him to not make it if he knew that I already ate. So I lied to him about that, and then I showed up with chocolate on my mouth to my engagement at the time. But anyways, oh God. And it was 2021 and things started opening back up. I ended up working at this place where a lot of people drink a lot on the weekends, and that's when like you can see a big shift, I feel like, in my weight. I just don't recognize myself, honestly. By the end of 2021, I got my heaviest. So I definitely think at the time I knew that it was an issue, and I felt that it was an issue, that's for sure. I was so out of breath doing everything, going up the stairs, and I kind of always joked and was like, oh, you know, I'm almost 30. Mind you, I just turned 30 this past year. I was not almost 30 then. I shouldn't have been having trouble going up the stairs, but I was. And I was even having trouble putting my shoes on. Showering was a task. I had to go buy shoes that didn't have laces because it was honestly so annoying to bend down. I'm getting sick all of the time. My knees hurt. I was constantly buying new clothes. I wanted stuff that I felt good in, but I didn't feel good in anything. I was also buying tons of makeup, I feel like, at this time. Changing my hairstyle a lot, changing my whole sense of style. I was always wearing this fuck-ass hat. At the time, I didn't think about why I was doing all of that. What I was always looking and hoping for was to feel comfortable in my own body, and I just simply didn't. When I look back at pictures, it was a little hard to find pictures of me looking the size that I actually was, because I was always posing like, and it was just hard to tell, honestly, when I'm looking back at it. And I think I kind of was like deluding myself to not realize how heavy I was. So when I would go to the doctor and they would print out a little slip and say, you're obese, you need to lose weight, your blood pressure is getting kind of high, you might be pre-diabetic soon, I honestly thought that they were just fat shaming me. And I think at some point during the pandemic, I entrenched myself into the fat acceptance movement. I never became a fat acceptance content creator, but I definitely posted some cringy TikToks. Looking back, I can't believe how much money and energy I spent trying to feel better about myself when the answer was to better myself health-wise. I went to the hospital and I talked to a nutritionist, and she put me on like whatever they do with, I guess sometimes they do this with bariatric patients. They give you these powdered foods and like that's what you eat. I probably did it for a couple weeks. It was really gross, and I probably didn't lose like 10 pounds in 2 weeks like I was hoping would be the case. And so I probably said it didn't work, because I remember later on telling people, oh, I tried everything and I tried this thing and I gained weight still. Like there must be something else wrong. I was not doing any of the stuff I said I was trying, at least not for long enough to see any results. The food noise was so bad that I'm trying to give myself a little grace with that. But I also think that I wanted a immediate solution. It took me a while to get to the weight that I got to. So like I said, I went to my doctor. I did end up going on a GLP-1 and I lost a lot of weight on it. But my biggest mistake from the beginning up until the end of going on my GLP-1 was I did not change shit about my diet. I ended up doing the majority of my GLP-1 Wegovy and Mounjaro towards the end, and then back to Wegovy because of insurance. Convinced it was something else that made me gain all the weight. She tested my hormones and my hormones were all out of whack. So I was like, that's it. That's the reason. It was my hormones. It was my hormones and my birth control. So I went off my birth control. I started losing weight also, and then my hormones got better. So was it my birth control that I've been taking for like 11 years and my hormones were always fine, or was it the weight? I was just in denial. I was able to kind of, again, delude myself into thinking this is 100% why I gained all the weight. And so that's what I told people. I'm sorry. I was also very embarrassed at the time to tell people that I was on a GLP-1, because at the time it was definitely not as accepted. Being on the GLP-1, I did start to lose the weight, but instead of 3 takeout meals a day, I was eating 1. And now I was adding a soda because I'm barely eating. I didn't eat like shit all the time. Sometimes I tried, but to be honest, I felt like garbage at least 1 or 2 days out of every week. As I lost the weight, my blood work started to get better almost immediately. I'll insert some pictures here from each summer that I was on it, or each year. I was kind of just living. But I wish, looking back, that I had done the work to heal my relationship with food and eating and gotten to know myself better. And the reason is, as soon as my insurance stopped covering the GLP-1, I was so terrified that I was going to gain all the weight back, convinced that I would never be able to control my weight and that it was completely out of my control. Once it wasn't going to be covered anymore, I started panicking and I was constantly asking my doctor, like, what can I do? What other medicine can I take? And I was looking into just buying it online because it was my crutch, honestly, for a long time. It was a tool and I wish that I used it properly. But once I was off of it, my food noise started coming back and I started to feel like I was losing control again. Not only that, but I went to get blood work and I also had very bad anemia because I was not eating enough nutritious foods.
When will you learn that your actions have consequences?
Picture right here was kind of my second wake-up call. I started gaining the weight back what felt pretty rapidly, and I felt so out of control, and I did not want to feel like that anymore. Started looking into how to lose weight on my own, and I tried to convince myself that I can do it. I'm just feeling so miserable because even when I had gotten close to my goal weight, I remember being kind of like, I just wasn't liking what I was seeing. And the reason was I was not eating any protein. I was not strength training. I got skinny, but I lost pretty much all my muscle mass. Kind of really realizing that I had not handled my relationship with food at all, and I had a lot of work to do. So I ended up starting to exercise and watching what I ate, tracking my weight, tracking my calories, and my weight was kind of going like that. I'll insert my graph here. And I was just so frustrated because I felt like I would get somewhere and then go right back. Also, to add another reason it was going back up and back down, that time kind of developed that certain cycle that happens when you have a binge, where I would restrict heavily, and then on the weekends or just when I felt like I couldn't take it anymore, I felt like I was starving, then I would binge. And the interesting thing about that cycle is that it kind of added to my thinking that I wasn't under my control and that I was trying everything, because I really would restrict, feel like I was starving some days out of the week. But because of that, and because I wasn't doing it in a healthy way, just binge, because I was so starving, and I would think to myself, well, I'm starving, so why am I not losing weight? I also just wanted to add that it 100% became a food addiction, and when I really realized that was when I was on the GLP-1, missed the dopamine hit that I would get from eating a lot, eating in my car, eating fast food, all of that. I missed it so much that I would literally watch videos of like mukbangs of people eating like absurd amounts of Taco Bell or like fried Chipotle burritos. Would watch them to kind of like hype myself up to go get food and feel that dopamine hit again. Like when you are on the GLP-1, because your food noise is very low or non-existent, and your appetite is so low, you don't really get that same dopamine rush. I just remember feeling like that. Like I wanted to feel the rush of eating a bunch of food. And that's when I really realized that I really did end up developing a food addiction as well. That's when I found some very, very helpful YouTube channels. The first channel was Honey Bison. So she's all about taking extreme ownership and accountability over your actions and implementing honest calorie tracking and being honest with yourself. And I know it sounds silly to say like that's what kind of woke my mind up, but I think I needed some tough love because I was not being honest with my calorie tracking. And I thought I wasn't trying to deceive myself or sabotage myself. But I didn't have a food scale. I was like, oh yeah, a tablespoon of this. And I was using a regular spoon. So once I started doing that and being actually consistent and telling myself I can do this, I have control over this, I'm not going to let food control me anymore, that's when I actually started losing weight again. I wish so much that I learned and internalized this stuff when I was on the GLP-1, because I think I'd be at a completely different point now. Happy that I finally got to this point. Another channel that really helped me was Angelica Unfiltered, and that helped me so much with unpacking where I was at mentally around the time that I was my heaviest. Between their two channels and just being completely honest with myself, tracking things, getting in steps, eating high protein, my food noise is so much better now. It's actually crazy. Of course, I still sometimes get it. It's still hard. Like, I want to eat all of the stuff, like all the cupcakes if I have a cupcake. But I feel like I trust myself more. I have more confidence in myself. I've lost 11 pounds so far without the GLP-1. I feel like I have control over my relationship to food now. My next goals are to build muscle, because like I said, I lost a lot of my muscle mass when I was on the GLP-1. I'm glad that the GLP-1 could get to at least a point that felt a little bit more manageable for me, I guess. So I don't regret going on it at all. I just wish that I didn't squander that time building my muscle while I lost fat. So I do regret that part of it, but people can just work on their relationship with food while they are on it. I think it could be so helpful for so many people, because there's a reason why I think 40% or more of America in specific, because that's where I'm from, there's a reason that people are that weight. And it's not just mental health. If you already have a propensity to overeat and you're constantly being bombarded with ultra processed foods and marketing and celebrations and food all the time everywhere, it makes sense to me that people are overweight and obese. So I have so much empathy for being in that spot. Of course, I was never like 600 pounds or something like that, but I was obese, and also I wasn't obese as a child. So that's like another thing that I don't have any experience with. But I'm so passionate about this because I know what it was like being at that point for a few years, and it honestly sucked so bad. And I don't want to ever feel like I don't have control over my own body in that way and control over my relationship to food. And I know that so many people feel like that. And all I want is for people to build a healthy relationship with food, lose the weight if they need to. And I'm not saying people need to be skinny. People to be able to be around food and not feel like they're going to lose control. And I felt like that for such a long time. And I'm so happy to be on the other side of that. That's really what drove me to make this channel. If you made it this far, leave a fox emoji and let me know something about your journey, where you're at right now. I would love to hear about it. I need to go take my dogs out for a walk now because they're getting very mad at me. Thank you again so much for watching. Please like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.